Welcome to Club IDIC. Tonight, we will be watching Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night from Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and we will be discussing a crusade for truth. Please enjoy this meeting.
Hello, dear.
Hi, it's good to see somebody. How are you?
I'm hanging in there. How are you?
I'm all right. I picked this episode and I know it's been delayed, but it's good to finally do it. It's about a crusade for truth, learning about our parents, learning about our past, learning about our parents' past. It's fitting.
Well, that kind of hits heavy because my dad passed away the other day.
Oh, my condolences. Are you okay?
I'm okay. It's hard no matter what, of course, but
oh yeah, I get that.
But it's hard in ways that are different than a lot of people might think, because let's just say we had a fraught relationship. I don't really want to dwell on it, but
well, Connie, I totally get it because I lost my dad in 2014. I get you.
Yeah. I'm flying home on Monday for the funeral. So,
well, my condolences. Whatever you need, we can talk in DMs.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So the episode, I just, it's a crusade for truth because she does this ritual for her mother every year. Then Ducat literally says, oh, your mother isn't who you think. I literally had an affair with her.
Oh, this is, I think I know the one. I'm terrible at knowing most episode names or remembering them.
This is Wrongs Darker Than Death or Night.
Okay. So I have to look it up.
And so literally she goes and asks Cisco, can I use an orb to go back in time to learn about my mother's history, the true history, not the fictional one my father told me.
Yeah.
And this is actually fitting because I'm hopefully going back to school in the fall for online school for family history research.
Oh yeah, you were telling me about that.
Yes. And I feel safe sharing now.
Good.
So yeah, this is definitely a fitting episode for today.
What season is that in?
That's a really good question. Let's look that up.
Well, I never know these things. I could look it up on
season 6, episode 17. It's all right. That's my job.
I could look it up on Memory Alpha, but I hadn't gotten there yet.
It's okay. It's my job. My job is to care for everybody and make sure they're all happy and cuddled and loved. Yeah. So I don't know, has it been a long time since you've seen it?
A while. I think the last time I saw it was well, I have to explain this. So there's a channel, maybe you're aware of some of this, I don't know. But there's a cable channel called Heroes and Icons, and every weeknight from 8 to midnight, I think it is, they play, or maybe it's 9 to 1 a.m. I don't remember. They play a block of classic Trek. So they'll play an episode of the original series, then Next Gen, then Deep Space Nine, then Voyager, then Enterprise.
No, we don't. I don't have that channel living in Canada, but we do have a space channel or CBC Sci-Fi.
I don't even have Heroes and Icons anymore, and I'll tell you why. This is annoying. So how I discovered this was the place I lived just previous to the place I'm living now. The owner of the house who didn't live there. Me and another gal rented rooms, so to speak, in this house. And but the owner let us use her TV and her cable subscription. So I somehow came across the Heroes and Icons channel and saw their what they called all Star Trek block. And so I'd sometimes watch it, and then I saw a promo where they said, join the conversation online, hashtag all Star Trek. And I was like, oh, I'm doing that. So I looked at that hashtag, and it was like this, ongoing conversation with some of the same people, some of whom are now on my Facebook. So it was just kind of like this conversation you could have every night with fellow Trekkies watching, whatever episodes were coming, because they would play them in order within each series. So, and then, they'd start over again after once they got to the end of a given series in that same block, it would start over. So, then I moved out of that place and I looked for that channel again. The only TV that I have right now is through a Roku. Do you know what a Roku is?
Yeah, it's a little box that.
Yes.
It's a little box that has a special remote. It costs a lot of money.
Actually, mine wasn't expensive. I keep coughing. I need to go get some water. I'll be right back.
Yeah, go get some water.
Okay, thank you. So I moved out of that place. And like I said, I only have the Roku. I got the Roku while I was living there, and I just plugged it into her TV, and it just becomes one of the inputs. And then, of course, if I wanted to watch regular cable, I had to switch the input, but that was pretty easy. So I took my Roku with me and plugged it into a new TV I bought. Well, it's not offered through Roku, this channel, Heroes and Icons.
Goodness.
So I look on their website, and the only way you can get it is if you were already an AT&T cable subscriber, which my landlord or landlady had been, or there's a digital channel in Columbus of it, but you have to have one of those digital antennas in order to pick it up. Well, I don't have one right now, so I have been all Star Trek-less for over a year now, and I really, really miss it sometimes. I have considered, and I probably eventually will, getting a digital antenna so I can pick that channel up, and then that way, any weeknight where I'm like feeling the need to connect with people in an easy fashion, I can watch Star Trek and connect with fellow Trekkies online. So that was all to explain all Star Trek, but I can't remember why I brought that up.
I think it's a hashtag on Twitter. You just add it to your Trekkie posts, and I think Trekkies.
Well, yes, but the people who are contributing to that hashtag are watching the episode in real time.
Oh,
I know why I brought it up. They're live tweeting, essentially live tweeting the episodes.
Oh, okay.
Or their reactions to same. I brought it up because it was while I was watching all Star Trek that I think is the last time I saw tonight's episode.
Oh,
and so that's been at least a year, probably more.
Paramount Plus is like $7 a month. Is it still on there?
Oh yeah, I have Paramount Plus through the Roku, obviously. I do the pay for a year at a time thing, and I mean, I got Paramount Plus, which of course it originally was called CBS All Access. I got it solely because I wanted to be able to see Picard. They had debuted the first episode of Discovery on broadcast, and I watched it, and not counting how different the Klingons looked, which I'm not mad about, but takes some getting used to. I was like, well, that was weird, and the episode's enjoyable, but I was like, I don't know if I want to, pay to see more of this. So I didn't for a long time. And then they announced that Picard was coming back as a character, and of course with his own show. And I was like, oh, I am definitely going to pay to see Patrick Stewart play Picard again. Are you kidding? So then obviously I was able to watch Discovery, and I'm so glad that I did that because I love both shows.
Oh, yes. And then there's a rivalry between fans of Strange New Worlds and Discovery.
Well, each show I think has its rabid fans, or
and
people
a lot of people think that Picard season 2 is terrible. I'm not a fan of it myself.
Okay. Well, so the way that I feel about both Discovery and Picard is that once in a while there's some plot points I've not been wild about, but overall I love the show. Both shows I feel that way about. So it doesn't actually like make me angry, the plot points I'm talking about. It's not like I get all bent out of shape like, oh my God, this isn't Trek, blah blah, like I don't do that. I'm just like, I didn't like that. Or don't buy it, like the end of season 2, where have you seen it? Just
I know what happens.
Okay. Oh, I'm sorry. You got it spoiled at some point?
No, I know what happens because I looked, because I just, I agree that it's Star Trek. It's just not very good Star Trek. And I was just tired.
Well, so I don't agree that it's not good Trek. I can't, that's just my opinion. I can't agree that it's not good Trek, but
it's wasted.
I don't buy that the whole episode or couple episodes where Q essentially shows Picard his trauma, his childhood trauma, and somehow that clears some of it. No, that is not how trauma works. I mean, I thought that episode was actually super well done, looking back on one's childhood trauma and like why things are scary, why you avoid in later life when things were scary as a kid. Hello, I get that. But just like leading someone back through their trauma is A, not going to solve it, and B, will actually probably re-traumatize them. So that aspect of that episode, I was like, And then the last episode of that season where it seems like, suddenly, even though Q has showed him his trauma, and even though Q slapped him in the fucking face, suddenly at the end of the episode, Picard's like, oh, I want to hug him twice. And I'm like, I don't buy that. Q has always been a pain in Picard's side. He's been annoying as fuck, and Picard's just like, be done with you. And now suddenly he wants to hug him. I'm like, I don't get it. No, I don't buy that.
They wanted to paint the two as a couple and some sort of like an unrequited love or
I don't even buy that
love story or something. I think that's what it was.
I didn't see it as romantic. Now a lot of people read into like, they'll take two male characters who are buddying in whatever fashion and turn it into a bromance. And I'm like, I never actually saw it as bromantic with those two, even to the end. I never saw it as romantic at all.
I think you had a thing for Picard.
I'm sorry?
I do think Q had a thing for Picard. Honestly, he just kept wanting to be with Picard a lot. And I don't think Picard was interested. That's what I mean by unrequited.
Well, yeah. That part I can buy where Picard's not feeling it. Yeah. I get that.
But I don't know, the whole ending was so awkward. They had so many opportunities with so many of the characters and they just pissed on them. Like so many spin-off opportunities. Like it just was so very odd to me.
Yeah.
I don't get it. And then when I'm reading about season 3, I'm like, oh dear God.
Okay, do not say a single thing. You must stop talking now. I do not want it spoiled.
No, it's not spoilers. It's just in the news. Form.
I mean, I've been okay. So, if you know anything different than what I'm going to say next, again, don't say anything. But I honestly hope that it's not just Picard and crew on a spaceship again. Because it's like we've seen that. We saw that for for how many ever years between the beginning of TNG and the end of or Nemesis. We've seen that. They've done that quite extensively. I mean, I know the original cast is back. Sans Will Crusher. Of course,
well, he got his moment.
He appeared in season 2. Now, here's what happened with that. Will Wheaton announces that he's not coming. He's not in season 3, and he's made his peace with it and all this business. And I was like, oh man, like how could you not invite him back? And so I, without even thinking about it, thought that meant he wasn't back in the show at all. And then he shows up right at the end of season 2, and you should have seen my face when he showed up on screen. I was like, what?
Personally, I thought Will was lying, and I literally called him out on Twitter. Are you just making this up so that we can...
I love it.
I don't know. Just I like Strange New Worlds better because I've been working on watching season 1 slowly, but I like it very, very much.
Uh-huh.
And I haven't gotten into really the newer Discovery, but I've watched seasons 1 and 2 and bits of 3. I like it very, very much.
So how do you get Discovery in Canada?
I have it on Crave, and Crave.
Is Crave a cable channel or a streaming service?
It's a streaming service, and it also is on CTV Sci-Fi.
Very cool.
And Lower Decks was also interesting.
Now, I have not seen any of Lower Decks or Prodigy. I'm just not really I'm just not really into animation.
Prodigy is good. Oh my gosh. I liked it.
Well, I keep hearing good things about both shows. So maybe someday I will, when I'm desperate for something to watch, maybe I'll break down and be like, okay, I'll check these out.
Or maybe I should just bring it here.
And then if I want to participate in the chat, I have to watch the episode, right?
Well, it's like, it's not that long, but Prodigy is so cute.
Well, and I hear Prodigy and Lower Decks both bring back characters that we're all familiar with. More maybe than Discovery and Picard do.
Well, I can't spoil things for you because then you'll get pissed at me.
I've seen some artwork that seems to indicate that. So, when you follow Star Trek accounts on like the official ones on Facebook, you end up seeing things. So I wouldn't say anything's been spoiled like plot wise. I don't know what happens generally in either show. But I have seen artwork from one or both. I think both. Yeah, both. That, is of certain characters. So I can deal with that knowledge.
Yeah, well, I might have to start. I do need to start integrating newer Trek as well as older Trek. And maybe I'll do that for Halloween. I had an episode chosen for October, but I'll just have to see if we get a Halloween party. I'll have to see how busy school is. Just like a cute little Halloween party where we show some fun little episodes.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know if anybody else is joining us. And so did you want to get to the episode so you have a refresher?
Sure.
Yeah. Because it's really nice to have somebody here tonight.
Yes.
And especially you, because I love talking with you. You're so smart and awesome.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. It's fun to talk with you too. Hey.
Hi. You know, sometimes we don't want to believe the ugliness in history, but really, what is worse? Ugly truths or ugly lies?
I hear you there. I'm definitely for learning about the truth.
This is basically searching family history. This whole episode is about researching family history and finding out truths that might not be ugly, but learning to accept real truths instead of continuing to hang on to family fallacies.
It's reminding me of that show on NBC or TLC. I think the latest.
Who do you think you are?
Yeah, who do you think you are? The latest episodes are on NBC. I'm watching it through the Peacock streaming app. Did you see my tweet? I think it was, or possibly Facebook post, or both, that said all Star Trek fans should watch the Zachary Quinto episode.
I did, and then I went and watched the episode.
Okay, yeah, I'd forgotten that part. I don't always remember who I have conversations with, just the content, and not even always that. So I won't go back into it since you already saw it.
Yeah, like there's actually projects on Geni.com, GENI, where they have taken family trees of celebrities, various celebrities, and you can see how you're connected to them. And I have a little family tree on there. So,
oh, that's cool.
I am connected to several various celebrities.
Yeah.
Yes. And you know, this, I don't know, it's just an episode about a crusade for truth in genealogy, because this is all about Nerys finding out about parts of her family history that she really didn't know the truth about. She thought her history was one thing, and that's called family lore.
Right.
And then she gets a story that she thinks is a story from somebody that she despises. And so she uses this orb after getting permission from Cisco, and she goes and sees, oh, this is actually truth. The family lore was a lie, and it was a lie given to protect the reputation of my mother.
And maybe protect the kids, Nerys and her siblings, from, knowing that about their mother.
Well, as far as I understand it, and you can correct me, like being a collaborator was looked down upon in Bajoran society back then. It probably still is.
Well, for sure. And Nerys herself hated collaborators. She talked about that at the end.
Like in the Bajoran section, like literally they were looking down on the comfort woman, saying, oh, the collaborators are turning against us. They're with the Cardassians. They're evil.
Yeah, and it's easy to say, oh, those comfort women, they betrayed us by essentially being nice to Cardassians, except they didn't really have a choice.
It was like either be nice or be thrown into poverty and the families get punished.
Yeah.
So what would you choose? I know it's a highly personal question, but if you were thrown into that situation, because you're very pretty, say you're chosen.
Thank you for the compliment.
Say you're chosen.
Well, that's really hard to say. It's hard to know what you'll do in a situation until and unless you're in it. But I do have to say, not given a choice, they'd shoot you, or they'd throw you in prison, or like you said, punish the family, or like who knows what they would do if you said no or resisted physically. So you're not really given a choice. So there's that.
Mm-hmm.
but then like once you go along in order to save your own life and help your family, it's like, then do you sort of give into it, or do you still kind of try to resist? And I like to think that it would be, honestly, a combination is probably a combination of giving into it, enjoying it, / resisting. And I say that because, I mean, Meru and the other comfort women, they were getting food. I mean, food is obviously a necessity for life. So, everything sort of goes away if you're hungry. Nothing else matters. So it would certainly be hard to resist the pull of food and of the good graces of whoever you're with. So there'd probably be a fair amount of going along. And then I like to think also that I would resist in whatever small way I could. By the way, that guy who played the resistor that Kira was working with, didn't he also play Gowron?
Oh, you know what? My knowledge of that is small. If Anthony were here, he could probably figure that out.
I'm gonna look it up because now it's bugging me.
But the social consequences for seeking a bit of like comfort, like, and becoming a comfort person. I'll say that's person is a neutral term, because who knows if there's comfort men as well, who knows? We can't discount the fact that maybe Cardassians sought comfort men as well. We can't discount that, even though we never saw it, and we can't discount it.
Right.
But the social consequences of that are that the Bajoran families sort of erased that member from their family, and the comfort people sort of erased their families from their minds.
Yeah.
Like, as we saw in the message that Meru's husband sent to her, enjoy your new life, enjoy the choice that you have made, etc. Like, they're sort of erasing each other from their lives. And
that part didn't really sink in with me. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm glad you're bringing it up. Go ahead.
And it's like, once he had effectively erased his wife from his life, he made up this story so to comfort the children and give them the memory that they're good memories of their mother to his children, so that they wouldn't grow up realizing, oh, their mother was a traitor, a collaborator, a mistress to a Cardassian, I guess, evil overlord.
Sorry, I'm still looking up whether that guy is the same actor. So hang on.
I mean, this, there's all, like, family history is interesting. You're given one story for many, many years, and you grow to believe that story, and you ask questions about specific stories, and you're given family lore. And that's the same, like, genealogy is interesting because then you do it on your own, and then, like, with the help of Ancestry, 23andMe, whatever, and then, DNA suddenly comes into play. Like, it came into the picture in about the 2000s. And then suddenly, when you take these DNA tests, all these things pop up that you didn't expect, and what you have in your tree suddenly doesn't match family lore anymore. Or when the DNA doesn't match family lore, and then you get to digging, and then you're like, oh, family lore is wrong. And you didn't expect it. And some of the truth may be ugly, but it's better to have an ugly truth than a comfortable lie, I think.
Yeah, I agree. So I found the answer about that actor. He did not play Gowron, even though he looks like he could play Gowron, complete with the eyes, I think. But he actually did play other characters in other Star Trek series. He played 2 characters in Voyager and 1 character in TNG.
Well, I've heard that Star Trek likes to recycle actors. Maybe that's
true. Yeah, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
I'm looking at his IMDb page.
Oh, IMDb. Yeah.
Well, where else would I go for this information?
Lots of people have IMDb's.
Yeah.
Yeah. As do I.
Cool.
It's small, but it's there.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Nothing wrong with it.
like comfortable lies, as I've said, comfort isn't a comfort zone isn't there to make us comfortable. A comfort zone is there to keep us from growing, and uncomfortable truths help us to grow, because then we learn to accept things that might not be comfortable, but they help us to learn and understand people and history better. And I mean, you see all these celebrities approach these sensitive subjects about their past.
Yeah.
And Kira Nerys, of course, had to approach the fact that her mother found comfort with a Cardassian, the sworn enemies of the Bajorans.
Yeah, that would be a tough thing to take.
And I mean, as she told Cisco, I don't like what my mother did. I don't like the choices that she made, but she's still my mother. And Cisco's like, because Cisco asked, why did you save her life if you hate her that much? She's still my mother. You have some thoughts. I can see it.
One thing I just realized is, when we talk about Nerys, I keep having to stop myself from calling her Kira, because that's their family name. And obviously we're dealing with two Kiras here. But Nerys, hating the Cardassians, and the Cardassians being her enemy, that's certainly true. But what I realized is that it's having an actual enemy, in terms of your nation having an enemy, essentially, or your race, in this case, your species, is almost like a foreign concept to most of us in the West. And I say that because, our countries have enemies. The United States certainly has its enemies, some of them, with good reason. And I don't know actually if Canada has any enemies.
Oh, we have plenty of enemies. We have enemies. People within the country are enemies of each other due to race.
Well, I'm not talking about within the country. I'm talking about the country with other countries, which is, in my mind, the analogy to, a species having an enemy of another species.
Yes, we do have enemies.
So, but for both our countries, a very small subset fight those wars and actually deal one-on-one, if you will, or deal in reality with those enemies. So in other words, like, let's take Iraq, okay, for the United States.
Oh,
and
God,
Canada too.
Bad war.
Okay, I'm not going to talk about the war, the actual war. I'm not going to talk about that.
Okay.
But I mean, I say and Canada too, because I know Canada was part of the coalition, if that's the right word.
Yeah.
The Allies. And the vast majority of us in both our countries didn't go over there and actually do the fighting. So if I met an Iraqi person, I wouldn't have any kind of immediate feeling that this person is my enemy. In fact, my brother, before he was with his longtime girlfriend that he's with now, he briefly married, and she was either Iraqi or Iranian. I can't remember. And she was a super sweet person. I'm sure she still is. I just, haven't seen her in decades. So anyways, I'm just kind of riffing on the concept of enemy and how that word feels different when you're not one of the people who deals with your country's enemies at all, really. Does that make sense?
Yeah. But it's like government propaganda is trying to force us to see each other as enemies based on petty differences, I believe.
Oh, do not get me started. I am so with
I dare
you.
to say it. I will say it.
I mean,
Because it's true.
I have become very much of the mind that borders are lines on a map. I'm not saying we shouldn't have separate countries and they shouldn't have borders, but borders are still lines on a map that the people in power use to divide us against each other so that they stay in power.
Like, the government just finds ways for us to hurt each other because they exploit petty differences and they want us to hurt each other so we can have war. And it's the saddest thing in the world.
Well, not only so we can have
money
war,
off war. They make money off war.
Yes. Too many of them do make money off war. I think good reason, I'd have to look up the details, but I think I have good reason to believe that if no other, and probably there are others, our one-time Vice President Dick Cheney made money off the war because he was part of a government contractor named Halliburton, blah, blah, blah. Anyways, so yes, they some of them want us to have war and some of them make money off war, and that's terrible, but they also divide us and want us to hate each other to distract us from what they're doing many times, which are often terrible things. And again, so that they stay in power, they retain their power and their wealth. And sometimes those two are connected. So, and maybe all the time those two are connected.
They literally find ways to profit off the suffering of other people, and they exploit our petty differences and make us go to war so they don't get noticed profiting off the suffering of other people. And it's like a mess. Yeah. They're like the Cardassians almost. They profit off the suffering of other people, and they try to just throw war and throw people against each other so that nobody notices them profiting off the suffering of other people.
Yep. Accurate.
It's sad. Like, all they did was whine about the Maquis. Like, the Cardassians were whining about the Maquis, so Starfleet wouldn't have noticed them exploiting the Bajorans.
I don't know if I knew that.
It's like, yeah, we haven't. Well, I think if you see it, like, and Starfleet was like trying to be in everybody's business so nobody would notice the corruption within themselves.
You're a deeper Star Trek fan than me. You are. There's no doubt about it.
I wish.
No, you are. You know this stuff. I don't know this stuff. To me, the Maquis are just that group that Chakotay and them used to be in. That's all the Maquis is to me, practically.
Maquis episodes in Deep Space Nine.
Well, you got to remember, I'm not going to hate on it, but Deep Space Nine is not my favorite.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I'm trying to think if I've seen every episode even. Probably by now I have.
Well, neither have I, so don't feel bad.
You have not seen every episode of Deep Space Nine? That surprises me.
No, ma'am.
Okay.
But
I think there are some episodes of the original series I haven't seen. And clearly I've not seen any of Prodigy or Lower Decks. So I'm pickier. I don't know. I don't know.
It's fine. You don't have to apologize for what episodes you watch or how you are a Star Trek fan. You can be a Star Trek fan however you want to be a Star Trek fan.
Thank you.
Like, people who think you have to watch every episode and do this and this and this, they can mind their own bloody business.
Yeah.
I won't say a bunch of swear words because my mom might watch this.
Your mom watches these?
She might. She's in the club.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Then
That's
she'll
cool.
yell at me for cursing, even though she's cursed at me when I've been naughty.
Well, I could curse. I love
Oh,
cursing.
that's fine. You can curse. I don't care.
Well, then I'll tell her to fuck off. No, I'm kidding.
Oh,
Okay, that's
yeah.
actually a reference to the TV show Succession, because the main character of that show, his catchphrase is "fuck off," and he gets approached by fans who ask him to say "fuck off."
oh,
I don't know if you've seen that show,
no.
but oh my god, it's a completely, of course, different kind of show, but actually it is about powerful, wealthy people. So I'm not going to derail the whole meeting onto this, but I will just briefly say this show is about a family that owns a media conglomerate company. They have TV networks and print publications, magazines, and newspapers. They have cruise lines. They have amusement parks. So at least all of that. And the title comes from the fact that the patriarch of this family, the character who always says "fuck off," is in his 60s, if not more, and might not last a terribly long time after that. He has a stroke in the first episode. That's not giving away too much. But then he gets better and he starts to kind of backtrack on the "I'm going to give you the CEO job" thing that he had already said. And so then the whole rest of the series is about his 4 children jockeying for a position to try to get control of the family company. And swearing made me think of it. And it's a really super well done show. It is so good. Yeah. So.
That sounds very Cardassian.
Well, like I said, they are one of these families that is the very kind of people we were talking about. They essentially profit from the suffering of others, or at least I'm trying to think if there's ways that it are shown where they actually profit off of other people's suffering. That might be overstating it. Although actually, no, it's not. I just realized a plot line that I will not reveal, so I don't spoil anything. But for at least one plot line, yeah, they definitely profited off of suffering.
So Cardassian, and that just makes me think of Ducat even more. Because Ducat was literally manipulating everybody. As like in the past, he was literally manipulating all the women to be like, "Oh, don't be afraid of us," and he literally made Meru feel so safe that she felt like, "Oh, you know what? I'm just going to give up my family and stay in this place, even though the Cardassians are supposed to be my enemies. Like, this life is more worth it than my past life." I think she felt manipulated and Stockholmed a bit.
Oh, that's a good concept in this episode, that you could say she has Stockholm syndrome. That's really true.
Yeah.
Or it's feasible, at least. I thought that was a really good choice that the writers made of showing her bawling while her husband she's playing the video of her husband, because it's once you see her getting on with Ducat, it could very easily be like like Nerys did. She's a collaborator. Like, now she's switched and she's this thing and it's terrible. But actually, her words of "I do love my husband," like, it was true. And so she becomes more complex and more realistic by that. So I thought that was really, really smart.
Yeah, but like literally she saw the message, but she went right back to what she was doing as if the message didn't affect her. So I feel like she began to sympathize with her captor, and she was very much Stockholm.
Well, I don't agree that she
like Ducat healed her face and was tender with her, and she's like, "Oh, my family are benefiting. My husband's telling me how my family are benefiting, so I just need to let them go and let them continue to benefit."
Well, except
I would give myself over to this.
She was still crying and the message was still playing when Nerys said, "You have to get out of here." when Nerys saw her mother crying, and before the video of the husband, her father, was done, she was like, we have to get out of here. So I think, I actually can see the mother's position almost entirely. Like I said before, I hope I'd be a combination of things. And this woman was a combination of giving into the situation and hating it because she still loved her husband and her children. So, anyways, that's my thought.
Mm-hmm. So the way she went about it, Kira, when Nerys, when she realized that Dukat knew too many things, she of course snapped at people. She went through, how does he know these things? She snapped at her colleagues. And then of course, Odo, the voice of reason, was the one who basically said, stop snapping at people, stop being a jerk to people. If you can't figure this out in your head, go do something about it.
Yeah.
And of course she listens to Odo, because everybody listens to Odo, because he just has this way with people.
Well, and the two of them have a special relationship, or had that not started yet?
I cannot remember when they kissed in the hallway.
I feel like it might have been toward the end of season 6 that happened. And then their relationship transpired over season 7, but I'm not sure of that.
Yeah. And then she went to Cisco, and Cisco was initially cynical, all worried about the Starfleet thing. But Nerys was like, I'm not approaching you as a Starfleet officer. I'm approaching you as an emissary. This is for a spiritual reason. I'm looking for answers about my family. I want to understand about my family. I need answers to see if this family lore I've been fed my whole life is actually true, or if this story I've been told is actually truth. I need to see if this ugly truth is actually the truth, no matter how much it hurts.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so Cisco warned her, of course, about timeline and gave her opportunity to try, because I guess the orb would determine whether or not her intentions were noble, I guess. And that's an interesting concept. If the orb thought her intentions were not noble, I guess it wouldn't send her.
Yeah, I don't know about that part. I mean, I don't know one way or the other, honestly.
I think that's how it said, right? Like,
okay.
Like if the orb determines my intentions are noble, it will send me where I need to go.
Okay. Oh, yes, she did. And then she said, if they don't, I've made a trip to Vador for nothing. You're right.
I really watched it. It was just so deep. I cried at the end. And then all of a sudden she wakes up in the past, in the camp, watching all these Bajorans get their rations, and then she breaks up a fight. I can't believe her breaking up the fight. What's with all these Deep Space Niners going back in time and getting into fights? Like, when they went back in time in Trials and Tribulations, of course, Miles and Julian got in the fight, and now she gets in the fight. Like, what's with all that? Or were you here when we watched that? I don't remember.
I think I was.
Sorry, I'm geeking out. Am I going too fast for you?
No. I just don't know that episode off the top of my head, and wasn't there when you talked about it, so.
Oh, and then the collab, not long after she lies to the Kira family about her name, another Bajoran collaborator shows up and takes the women by force. They weren't given a choice. They were just taken.
Yeah.
And then they were introduced to all this food, invited to look their best and eat. And they literally were introduced to the Cardassians and told that the Cardassians were capable of kindness, which of course Kira Nerys was like, yeah, right. You could just see it in her face. She didn't believe it. And then Meru, she could have gotten herself killed just by opening her mouth, asking what will happen to their families, but Dukat found himself intrigued.
Ducat is gross. Not that I have to convince you of that.
No, he is gross, but you could see the intrigue in Ducat's face, couldn't you, as you watched? He's like, really? This woman is asking such an interesting question.
I feel like this has come up before and I might know the answer, but just in case, have you seen the documentary about Deep Space Nine?
I actually did watch it. I found a DVD and I watched it. I got it from the library and I watched it.
Now every time I think about Ducat, I think about the actor who played him and how it seemed very definite to me from the documentary. You know where I'm going, don't you?
I don't know.
Okay, it seemed very definite to me from the DVD that Nana Visitor did not like Mark Alamo, or however you pronounce his last name.
Oh, goodness.
Alamo? It might be Alamo. Yeah. I mean, they didn't go on about it, but there was a moment, and I can't actually even remember exactly what she said or how she said it even. But there was a moment in that DVD that made me go, oh, she doesn't like him. So.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I talked to another Star Trek friend of mine who confirmed, like, who backed me up on that. He's like, oh yeah, you're right. They did not get along or whatever.
I'm sure there was a lot of drama on the Deep Space Nine set. I'm sure a lot of it's been lost to history.
Well, you know, don't you, about the unfortunate nastiness between, if that's the right word, between Kate Mulgrew and Jerry Ryan while they were filming?
Maybe not. If you want to, you can refresh me, but keep in mind this is being recorded. If you're comfortable with sharing on a recorded call, you can.
Well, I saw a video on YouTube where Jerry Ryan and Garrett Wang are speaking at a convention. They're on a panel, and they talked about this subject in detail, in a little bit of detail. She came right out and said it. And Garrett cried. I'm not kidding. Garrett cried.
Garrett cried. I can't imagine that sweet man cried.
He did. Well, this is why he's sweet, is because this stuff that Jerry was talking about really bothered him. And I don't want to dwell on it. Maybe I've already gone, too much.
No, I don't care. Tell away. This is
okay. I'll say the kernel of it, and then we could move on or not. It's up to you. From what I've been able to gather and remember from watching that particular video, Kate resented that the producers felt they needed to bring in Jerry's character because it was she believed the producers were feeling the need to rely more on sex appeal, hence Jerry's ridiculous costume, and that Kate took it out on Jerry, essentially. Like, Kate wasn't super nice to Jerry while they were filming. And it's super disappointing. I believe they've made up in the meantime, so that's good, but it's always kind of made me sad ever since I learned about that.
It makes me sad to hear that, because 7 of 9 was so much more than sex appeal. 7 of 9's outfit wasn't even revealing. It just was form fitting. So I don't even know about that idea that Jerry Ryan was threatening.
Well, I don't think Kate necessarily felt threatened by her. She was disappointed, I think, that the producers felt they needed to up the sex appeal, because Kate was like, oh, a woman is heading the show herself for the first time in the Star Trek canon. And, she wanted to make Captain Janeway kind of like all about the science, all about the work, like a woman can do this, etc. you know, and you know, Kate's the one who was like, give me a better hairstyle, something that's easier, because there was also, you know, all this back and forth about her hair at the beginning. And I've also heard that, you know, the shoes they gave her to wear had heels that made it more difficult, and blah blah blah. And she's like, give me better, you know, she put her foot down a few times, no pun intended, to ask for modifications to the physical character of Janeway to make it easier for her as an actress, and to make the character, you know, all about being Captain Janeway, instead of like, let's see the woman be pretty. You know what I mean?
Well, why can't women be pretty and be captains at the same time?
Well,
This is what
I'm
we
not
see in Michael Burnham.
I'm not saying they can't. All I'm saying is, from a feminist point of view, it's actually a positive, because, you know, a feminist point of view says that it doesn't matter what the woman looks like, she can do the job. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so here the producers are, you know, 3 seasons in, bringing in a younger, theoretically hotter, clearly well endowed, and we're going to emphasize the well endowed character to, and the producers felt the need for that, because the viewership in the, you know, male 18 to 35 or whatever demographic was falling off. It's all about, you know, ratings.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, sometimes that's sad that it's all about ratings. However, you have to have the ratings high enough so you continue making the show, right?
TV's a business, and you have to accommodate the viewers, otherwise there goes the business.
So anyways,
and it's not like Jerry Ryan was just there for sex appeal. Seven was a very intelligent role. Jerry had a very intelligent episodes. It's not about sex appeal. It's just adding to a very diverse cast of characters. Like,
well, I mean,
Jennifer Leanne was leaving. They had to replace her.
I understand that, but tell Kate McGrew it's not about sex appeal, because I have seen video of Kate on stage at a convention talking about, oh, I know you young men, you love sex and you need that, and I understand, and, you know, blah blah blah. And I actually feel like, if you're going to be all feminist about it, don't even say that. Like, just, you know, you can express your disappointment that the producers went in that direction and the reason why, but to go on stage about, oh, you know, I know young men want sex. Well, first of all, most adults want sex of any gender. So, like, but anyways, well, I'll get off my soapbox.
It's fine, but here's the thing. If Jerry Ryan was just there for sex appeal, she wouldn't have been brought back for Picard, and she's back for Picard. So answer that, Kate.
Well, the producers of Picard are different than the producers of Voyager. There might be some crossover, but I believe I highly
respect Jerry Ryan just because of what she's done in the Star Trek fandom.
Oh yeah.
I don't know where all this is coming from, and I feel so sad that Garrett was crying over this. Poor Garrett.
Yeah, I mean, it was, he actually said this was hard to deal with.
Like, I hate it when actors don't get along behind the scenes, because it affects the show.
Yeah.
It affects the chemistry between the actors. And if actors can't get along, the viewers can see that in the way that the characters act in the show. The acting is poor.
Speaking of which, I'm curious about your acting. I will say this, when I saw your Table Read Tuesdays posts, I was like, oh, that's really cool. And I thought it might be, this is not a slam, an amateur acting thing. I didn't know it was professional actors until I went to their page and I saw their description that says, you know, we have professional actors get together. I was like, I didn't know Heather was actually a professional actor. So that's really cool.
I've been in theater since I was a teenager.
That's really cool. You're going exactly where I was going to ask. What made you go, I want to do the acting thing?
Well, I joined show choir when I was in high school and I liked it. And, when I was 16, I helped perform at Disneyland.
Oh, very cool.
And I just have done choirs and things. I think I've done a couple of films, and I did a recent play that was released as an audio drama recently.
I saw that post.
Yeah, the audio drama actually turned out really cool. And I did a Shakespeare play like last December, and I just like it. I wish I could do more with it.
So do you mostly do community theater where you live type of stuff?
No, I tried out for community theater. It's difficult. They didn't cast me. Like, my health condition just makes it difficult right now, but I'm trying to work up and be better at it. And
Yeah.
I do what I can when I can.
Yeah. I told you, didn't I tried acting story? I feel like I told you this.
My memory is like
Okay, so I'll tell it, or tell it again, as the case may be. So the combination of acting and choirs will definitely bring this story up for me always. So many years ago now, but after I moved to Columbus, which happened pretty quickly after I graduated from college. I grew up in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but I went to college in Ohio. And like I said, soon after, actually moved to Ohio. And I can't even remember what prompted me to start, probably to join a choir that I'm going to talk about. Probably because in college, I discovered a love for singing that had never been there before necessarily, despite the fact that I had sung in choirs since I'm in late elementary school, junior high, high school, church and school, all those years, all the way through. I had sung in choirs. But my first love musically growing up was piano. My parents put me in piano lessons when I was 6 years old, or in kindergarten, so maybe it was 5. And so, I do piano lessons. I kind of was off and on with them in junior high school, but then I really got into the piano in high school. And I even started college as a music major with a piano performance emphasis. And every time I say those words, I have to laugh now because I had no clue what I was getting into majoring in music. I thought I knew some music theory, and then I took college level music theory. And I realized that I didn't know squat about music theory. I mean, music theory is highly mathematical. That might be surprising, or it might not, depending on how much you know.
Oh, I was in band and music and stuff before show choir. And yes, I kind of lied. I actually started theater when I was in junior high and a little bit in elementary. So anyway, yeah, I was in band and I always flunked theory. I was just good at playing the internet.
I mean, there were some things in music theory where I was just like, man, who laid awake nights to make this more complicated? I mean, the C clef will always be my example of what the hell. Yes, exactly. You know, I can see it on your face. The C clef. God almighty.
And the quarter note and the half note. And oh my God, learning to play a tenor sax for jazz band. Oh my God.
So, but music theory class was actually not the hardest part of being a music major for me. I don't even know if I can adequately describe what sort of killed it. I'm going to go off camera for a bit.
Okay.
So, anyways, piano practicing became only so much work. And, I just looked forward in terms of what was coming next for me as a piano major and music major. And now I have to pee, so I hope you'll forgive if you can hear this. I looked forward to some things that I knew were coming in the music major program, and I was like, I don't feel qualified to do that. Like, you have to compose as a music major. And I was like, what? To me, being a music major just meant you got a lot better at performing. And then you maybe could make a living as a performer when you got out. Like, that's where my brain was. I was like, I just want to play. But so, the difficulty of it, and I lacked a lot of confidence, which is its own subject, but the difficulty of it and the drudgery that I felt having to practice, which I had always had to practice, of course, but it just became drudgery. What can I tell you? So it led me to switch majors. Well, so then I'm no longer a music major, but was attending a religious school, and we had chapel 5 days a week. And in chapel services, we would frequently sing like worship songs and hymns. And for the majority of the time I was there, I sat with a particular friend in these chapel services who had a really strong soprano voice. And I began, for maybe the first time in my life, to actually be able to hear harmony. The class, I completed a music minor, and one of the classes that was required for that was called aural skills, AURAL, aural as in of the ear. And it might have been that class that helped me hear the harmonies, because you learn the intervals for one thing. Like I could sing a perfect fourth, perfect whatever, just because I drilled them into my head. In any case, I felt like I began to hear harmony. So I would harmonize with this friend, and harmony, man, oh, it's like heavenly to me. So all that to explain how my love for singing began. It turned on even though I'd been a singer already. So then I'm out of college. I moved to Ohio, and I, don't necessarily have a built-in outlet for singing except church. And so I joined a local community chorus. And this chorus, 1 year, they may do this kind of thing more than just this 1 year, but I was only in it for, I think they practice and perform 3/4 of the year. And so I was in it like 3 or 4 quarters total over the space of a couple of years. And 1 quarter, the deal was, the show that we were going to put on at the end of the quarter was scenes and mostly songs from 6 Broadway shows. The show was 2.5 hours long. It was a little too long. A little too long in my opinion. But anyways, well, so then I tried out. Okay, so I thought I was trying out to sing a solo. Turns out I was trying out for a role. And I didn't know that going in. Don't ask me how I got this confused. Don't ask me how I didn't realize that they were casting Belle, as in Beauty and the Beast's Belle.
I can picture you as that.
Thank you. So I'm up there singing Tale as Old as Time, and they liked it and they cast me. So then we start rehearsing, and they're having me, play Belle, and it's like, oh, well, so this is my first time acting, and I have no clue, kind of what to do. And here's the part I remember telling you. I remember talking about this the last time we were on, because I know Anthony heard it too. This is how I discovered that acting is not just pretending. Because, or if it is, it's harder to pretend that you're going through something you're not actually going through. Like, that's difficult. My respect for actors went way up, because I was like, I suddenly do not know how they do it. I had thought they always just pretended. I literally did not know that there was a thing called getting into character. Honestly,
right.
I did not know.
Now I'm connecting with it.
Now I have to tell you that, well, I don't have to, but it may have something to do with the fact that I grew up without television, and I'm not exaggerating. My parents didn't have a TV the whole time. They had kids in the house. And side note, they presented it as if TV was of the devil. And then after I'm off to college and come back once, there's a TV in the living room and you could have knocked me over with a feather. And they were like, oh, we just didn't want to have one in the house while you kids were growing up. And I'm like, you made it like it was, Satan. Like, anyways, the hypocrisy of my family is a whole other subject. So, I didn't know anything about this world. And I even remember, this is a side story, one time when I was in college, I was walking out of a performance that had just been given. I don't remember of what. And I was with a friend. And we passed by another person walking the other way who had been one of the actors in the show. And that actor greeted us in a particular way that it is not necessarily the way we tend to talk these days. And my friend who was with me said, she's still in character. And I literally did not know what that meant. And I wish I had said, in character, what do you mean? Because then she could have explained it. But I don't know why I didn't ask. So, back to community chorus and playing bell. We're rehearsing, and the director has to basically tell me how to act in many cases. So one night we are in the rehearsal space and we're taking a break, and the director is across the room or walking across the room, and she says to one of the other actors, I could overhear it where I was across the room. She says to this other actor, it's so nice to have actors who know what to do. Well, for better or worse, I figured she was talking about me, as in, by not talking about me, you know what I mean? Because I clearly did not know what to do. I took that as a veiled reference to me. Whether it was true or not, who knows? But she had to tell me many things to do. I guess, credit to her that she didn't say it to my face, but I went away from that experience thinking, oh, I suck at acting. Like, that's not a thing I know how to do well. And to be fair, I am very oriented to reality. And, I don't find pretending that I'm okay when I'm not is something I actually sadly have too much experience with. But pretending that something about the world is different than it actually is, I don't find that easy.
No, it's not easy.
So, point being, it's not easy. But like I said, I took away from that experience going, oh, acting's not, I suck at it. Well, recently, within the last few years, a friend of mine who's an actor, not full-time, but she has done community theater herself. I think I told you guys last time that I was maybe bringing it up, and she said, oh, you'd actually be a good actor. And actually, that's not the case. I remembered later, she brought it up. She was somehow talking about acting, and she was saying about me and some other people we were hanging out with that night, oh, you'd be a good actor. You'd be a good actor. You'd be a good actor. And I was like, you think that about me? I was shocked that of her own accord, at any level, she had ever thought about me that I could do acting. And then I told her the story I just told you, and she was like, oh, that's terrible. So yeah, I have a very different view of it now than I did for many years. So hats off to you.
Thank you. And you just made me think about something. You said you were not very good at pretending that the world is okay. And That's something that Nerys has in common with you. She wasn't very good at pretending the world was okay, the world that she was facing, the world that she was seeing her mother in. She was very resistant to the idea that her mother actually loved Dukat. She was seeing it,
For
but she
sure.
couldn't believe it. And she was so angry about it that she was willing to suffer and potentially risk being killed. I don't know what happens when you get killed in an orb experience. I'm assuming it throws you out and back into your time, but she literally protested, bashed the Cardassians, and literally threw a massive temper tantrum and almost killed a past version, an orb version of Dukat and her mother with a earring bomb, just to satisfy her own feelings. And I'm not sure how appropriate that was, because she was merely there to observe. She wasn't there to take part in a terrorist cell. She was there to observe and understand what her history truly was. And she told Sisko that she wasn't going to interfere, and yet she tried to interfere.
Yeah, I was going to say, come to think of it, Sisko did not, at least that we saw, of course, call her on the carpet for even thinking about participating, and almost did participate. No, actually, she did participate in something that would change the timeline because she set the bomb off. It didn't end up killing Dukat or her mother, but setting off a bomb is clearly a participation in a timeline. So he did on her case about that.
Like that we saw, I mean, maybe they had a conversation about that right before they were talking about her mother, because they cut to his office after she was sent back, and maybe that's what one of the first things they talked about, like, oh, I told you not to interfere, and you tried to set a bomb off and change history. What would have happened if Dukat had died? Did you think about that?
Are you an Orville fan?
Sort of. I'm trying to get into it. Trying to find it.
Oh, okay. That's right. We had that conversation too, and I sent you a link. Maybe that didn't help. I don't know.
It didn't. I'm afraid I can't.
Bummer, man. Sucks.
I'll see if it's on a DVD, but even if you don't like history like Nerys, like even if she didn't like it, she shouldn't have tried to change it. She should have just observed to understand her history, and she shouldn't have tried to change it with her own feelings. She should have just gone in objectively and observed, and she let her own feelings get in the way of trying to understand a situation that was beyond her control. And I hate to say I'm anti-Nerys for that, but I am. She merely said she wanted to observe and understand the truth behind her mother's dark history and the dark truth behind what Dukat was saying. But she acted inappropriately when she agreed to join that cell and almost killed her mother and Dukat. That was an inappropriate step she should have never tried to make.
Yeah, agreed.
I don't know. Maybe I'm just being judgmental.
No, I mean, you're right. That's something that Starfleet theoretically cares a great deal about. And in other episodes of probably this series, and for sure other series, they harp on people about not interfering, but they didn't do that in this episode. So that's just an interesting choice by the writers.
Like, I know she was angry about seeing the truth and seeing that her mother was a collaborator, but she should have just left it alone and come to just continue to see what she came to see, and just let her temper alone. She let her temper get the better of her so many times, and she could have gotten herself killed because that one collaborator said, I'm getting tired of shuttling you all over. I'm getting tired of you and your attitude.
Yeah.
And he could have just said, oh, I'm going to kill you right then and there. And just when we see the truth of history, when it's finally revealed to us and we don't like it, we don't need to freak out. We don't need to get angry. We just need to take it and understand it, because dark truth exists. And when we learn about it, we just need to take it. We don't have to accept it. We don't have to like it, but we don't need to be angry and hateful because of it. So we just need to know that it exists and learn from it so that we don't end up repeating it in our generation. You know?
Yeah.
You okay?
Yep.
Tired? Tired?
A little distracted. I'm sorry. I trying to fight the distract myself habit, and sometimes I lose that battle, even though
Oh, yeah.
I'm talking to someone. So I apologize.
No, don't apologize. I hate that in here. That's not allowed. Apologies aren't allowed. We're allowed to be imperfect. It's okay. But yeah, it's like the whole thing about being distracted. Like, I think Major Kira, or yeah, I don't know if it was Colonel Kira by this point or Major Kira, I don't remember. But she should have meditated before she went into the past. She went into the past with her emotions supercharged from Duquette's call, because he called in sort of a mocking tone. Oh, I'm going to enlighten you. Your mother and I had an affair. Ha 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 ha. And she was angry from that. And she went to Cisco after snapping at people and said, I want to go back in the past and understand this and see if this ugly truth is actual truth, or if Duquette was just screwing around to get my emotions up like he always does.
Yeah.
And she should have meditated and get herself calm and get herself in an objective mood, but she went in with her emotions riled, and that's what caused her to just really lose herself and forget why she was there for a little bit. Because if you go into a situation, if you go researching history and learning about history and forget what you're doing, or you get angry at history, then it might cause you to do things or say things that are not very nice or good. I mean, you can be angry about history all you like, but it won't erase what happened.
Yeah. Yeah. True.
And I mean, I don't necessarily agree with all these people who want to erase history or give a falsified history of things that have happened. Like, we need the truth of things that have happened so we don't end up repeating it in future generations. And that may sound crass, that may sound horrible, because there's a lot of dark periods of history, but we need it all. That's why we have genealogists. That's why we have researchers. That's why we have historians, so that all truth can be exposed to the world and shared and put in books so that people can come to understand the histories of humanity, so that history doesn't repeat itself. And sadly, history is already repeating itself in horrible ways.
Yeah, sadly.
And we just need to be mindful. And in terms of personal history, like, we may get told things, family fables, and we should always invest ourselves in doing whatever genealogy and family history that we can. And if we can't do it ourselves, we need to go to those who know what they're doing, because there's always a genealogist around. And there's Ancestry and 23andMe and all sorts of cool places. And in the course of doing our own personal history, we may find truths that we don't like, that are contrary to family fables, just like Nerys did. But you know what? If we do find ugly truths, they're at least true.
Yeah.
They're better than comfortable lies that'll keep us from growing and learning. Because reality is always better than just sweet illusions, even if it's a painful reality.
Yep, I agree.
Any thoughts?
No, I'm in complete agreement with you.
Is there any other part of the episode you want to discuss?
feel like there might have been something that I was gonna comment about, but I can't remember what it was. It wasn't big, so it's fine.
Okay. Are you getting tired and you'd like to end here?
Well, I'm not tired, but you know, you can end whenever you want to end.
Because I feel like the discussion's petering out and
Okay.
you're distracted and I might get distracted soon.
Well, like I said, it's a
Yes,
I'm only distracted because it's, habitual to
it's getting late in your area.
it's a habitual to have a second track going in my head, and it's not always a good habit. So like I said, I fight it, but I don't always win.
It's okay. It's getting late in your area. You're Eastern, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'll be up quite a bit later, but I'm a hardcore night owl. So,
like we just need to, as a closing thought, we need to be mindful that truth is out there. And we need to be mindful that truth may hurt. But it's always better to hold to truth, even if it's painful, than it is to take comfort in lies.
yeah.
Because honesty will bring us comfort in the end. Honesty may hurt. Honesty may hurt a lot, but it will help us to grow and become better and to progress as people and as generations. It will help us to grow. Honesty will help us to grow. Lies won't help us to do anything but live in ignorance.
Yeah, I completely agree.
And to find truth is a wonderful journey. It may turn into a crusade. It may take a lot of work. It may cause a lot of pain. But we need to do it. We need to undertake the journey. And it's a wonderful thing. A crusade for truth is a wonderful thing. And we should all undertake it. Even if it costs some resources, we should take that journey and find joy in a crusade for truth.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. And with that said, I wish you a good night and thank you for coming.
You too.
Hope you enjoyed yourself.
I did. Same to you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you for coming. Live long and prosper.